Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, every so often you read a book that changes the course of a life, and there was one called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And I remember that inside of that book there was a flowchart, and that flowchart was, okay, great, something's just come into your world. How do you capture that? So I need a capture tool. I'm going to need to write it down on a notepad, put it inside of notes on my phone. I'm going to take a photo with it. I'm going to record it into a dictaphone back in the day. Like, these are all the different options that I've got. Now that that's actually happened, okay, great, can I do it in under 2 minutes? If the answer is that it can be done in under 2 minutes, then you do it. If it can't be done in under 2 minutes, then literally you then need to move it across and it's actually a project. When you think about completing that project, what are the steps that actually need to happen and what needs to go first in order for that to occur? So in order to record a video, for example, you might need to book the videographer, get the venue, make all of those things happen. So there's a series of steps. Then when you think about that contextually and you're thinking about putting that plan together around that particular project, are there specific things that can only be done in certain places? So, okay, great, this can only be done in front of my laptop, but this part of the project can be done when I'm on the road and I'm in the car and I can go and make calls.
Yeah.
This sort of thing I can only do when I'm at home, and this sort of thing I can only do when I'm actually physically at the office. So you start like thinking through those things, then okay, great, then when am I going to go and put that into my planning inside of my calendar of when I'm going to have a project time to actually get to that position of execution.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting because it made me think, and I think, I can't remember the name of the book at the time, but it was something that was like, it was called Execution, I'm pretty sure. And it was about like, think about you being in the control tower at the airport, and you're the person who's got to make sure that every single plane lands and every single plane takes off. So you're having a quick look at the forecasted traffic of what's coming in, and then all of a sudden you get an alarm that there's a plane that's lost an engine, maybe a Rex flight, for example, and that they now need to come in to land. Now you've got to reorganize to be able to make that plane land.
Yep.
How focused do you need to be on what's happening? How much awareness do you need to have about what's going on and who's coming in and how much fuel they've got in their plane to then get them in a position to hold some to be able to land the emergency?
Yeah.
But yet be in a position that you just can't keep landing emergencies all day. So you've got to be like fully present and actually really understanding of your workflow. Now, when I put those two things together and I start to think about, what actually is something you can do straight away and needs a response, what are the things that actually are projects and can they clearly be defined when you're actually putting time in for execution inside of your business? So what I normally do is someone, and particularly someone who's stressed or overwhelmed or feeling like they've got, oh my goodness, I've got so much on, I just don't know how I'm going to do it all. The first thing I'll do is I get them to take a pen and paper and to write a list of everything that's on their mind. Just give me a list of everything that you're actually working on. And then once I get a list of all of those things, okay, great, now tell me how many of these things are actually going to help us to where we want to go.
Yeah.
Thoughts on some of that thinking?
I love that. I mean, I'm the list man. So I take lists from my notes in my phone to a pad and then reverse them back out. But you're right. There's, I think, must do, should do, could do. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. There are things where, that plane is landing and it's got one engine down. Well, that we must address that right now. And then there's the idea about what September looks like. Well, that's a need to do it, but I don't need to do it now. And then should do is, hey, I should really have that conversation with that vendor because we need a price adjustment. So I kind of work off that system, and I kind of look at it and I go, if you have and we've spoken about this before, structured, unstructured time where you can actually work on special projects or have some flex, then I think what happens is you get caught in doing as opposed to creating and thinking. And I think you need to have that balance of both.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing about the power of an execution team and how that relates to using external suppliers to actually make sure that you get to rapid growth. And okay, great, who are the people that are on my execution team? So when I think about, okay, great, I'm going to get a new project out, what does it look like? will I need anything from my graphic design team?
Yeah.
Will I need anything from my video team?
Yeah.
Will I need anything from my copywriting team? Will I need anything with my web development team? Will I need anything with my sales team? Will I need anything from my administration, compliance, and operations team? Will I need anything from my financiers, my funding team to make all of this thing come together? So whether or not you're buying a business as a part of a property management acquisition, or whether or not you're in a position that you're putting out some new signboards to market with or without QR codes, what are you specifically doing to make sure that you're going to go and land that particular project? Now, I have a very, very simple philosophy that when a supplier's invoice hits my desk, it's paid that day.
Same.
The expectation is that when I ask that supplier to do something, they say, Josh, how quickly can we do that for you?
Yeah.
And the interesting conversation is that ultimately it's really important to make sure that you've got those relationships right. And when you think about the art of execution, how important is it to set time aside to build important things for your business growth? But rather than using the word implementation, talk about execution, execute with excellence rather than I'm implementing that into my business.
Well, I think if you don't, I think it's critically important, and I think if you're not sitting there trying to work out the time that's going to be putting the focus on how you can grow the business. So I look at it and I go, can I grow the individual? Can I grow the market share? So family, village, tribe. That's how we kind of put our businesses. So family, the immediate members, village, the office, tribe, our group, right? So do I have the ability to grow the family, impact the village, and how does that affect the tribe? And I think if you don't, then you get into maintenance mode. And maintenance mode's totally fine, by the way. Sometimes you need that. It's kind of like REM sleep and deep sleep. REM is obviously clearing out the junk in your brain, and deep is actually repairing the body. You need that. But I also think it's critically important that you put that time aside to work out what are the things that can, define a better customer experience, make the boats go faster. It might be more profitable. It might be whatever it is, right? If you don't have that time set aside, then it's very hard to be able to grow.
The interesting part here is about really thinking about getting to project definition. So we hear a lot of people in time management go, "Oh, just delegate it." So I go, "Hey, Con, can you just start up a new office?" And I just walk away. Yeah. And that sounds like a great idea, but if you've never done that before, you don't know what actually necessarily needs to be done, let alone the buckets. So there's the compliance buckets, there's office and fit out buckets, there's conversations around what you got to do with people, there's financing, there's a whole different range of things. Yes. And so what I see a lot of people, and here's a classic, "Hey Con, can you design us a new pre-listing kit?" Yeah. And the agent walks away. Yeah. And that project probably hangs around for 18 months and no one ever gets it done.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, cool, fine. How quickly could I do it?
Yeah.
So, okay, great. So, I've heard that. It's a great idea. I fundamentally think it's going to be important to us landing the ball on the major, number of what we're going for. So how am I going to go and do that? Okay, cool. Now, I've heard that. How quickly can I get it into play and to make this thing turn around? So I am going to now allocate a very clear period of time without distraction where I'm going to put my device to the side. In my world, I put on a set of headphones and have some music playing in the background that keeps me focused, set the timer for the next 45 minutes, and I'm just going to get momentum in this 45 minutes to make that happen. And Stephen Pressfield had wrote a book a lot about procrastination. How much time and energy did you burn thinking about it versus actually just doing it?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, great. And what I've found is that if I can just get in for the first 45 minutes to start it, then it will change it. And I then looked at, your people go to call it your unique areas of excellence or, unique skills that you might have and how do you go to amplify that? And what I've learned very quickly is that I've learned and built a set of skills to actually get things on the runway and to build the system the first time, but I don't want to have to run it for the rest of my life. So in other words, I'll build the form, I'll build the checklist, I'll have the discussion, I'll get it built, I'll test it, and then I'll hand it over. So as an example, you might say, hey, look, Josh, we've got a great project. We're going to unlock landlords and their principal place of residence. Yeah. Okay, great. And you might go and give that to your BDM and nothing happens with it. But you then might say, you know what, Josh, I'm not going to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, great. Who's the target audience? What does the call look like? What does the follow-up SMS or email look like? What are we then subscribing them to? What does that template look like? When does that actually go out? Who in the team actually builds it? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make the first 50 of those calls myself to refine the dialogue so I know exactly what happens in those calls, anticipate what the objections are, so then I can make it into a trainable system that there's either a set of forms or a checklist or a visual or very specific dialogue that now I can train my BDM or my salesperson in to get them to a position of absolute excellence with it.
So what I'm hearing there, Josh, is you're breaking down what you're trying to achieve into a process that enables you to have clear, uninterrupted focus time so you can deliver an outcome. There's an old Chinese proverb that says the man that chases two rabbits catches none, right? So I think we've got to define what success looks like at the beginning. So why do we need that new pre-listing kit? What's wrong with the one that we've got? What problem are we trying to solve? It could be just a design issue. It could be something that could be done, fairly quickly. But I love that idea of that that real focus, time and energy to put aside to the things that matter the most. But you need to have a clear definition of what success looks like.
Get known for doing things. Get known for being great at execution. And, the greatest time management tip of all time is the ability and the discipline to be able to say no and only work on the things that really matter.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, out of all the things that apparently you're going to be putting into your business, what are actually the things that shift the needle the most in terms of performance, or what infrastructure is going to be required to take it to a different stage of growth? And that might be that you've got an internal version of a Wikipedia or a knowledge base or some sort of searchable database of information where you can actually pull up. And I challenge real estate agencies on this. Okay, great. Where's your rate card? So show me, how much do you charge for property management? What do you charge for lead only? Is that a service offering or not? What do you charge for a tribunal fee? What's a statement fee? Off the back of that, what's a technology fee? What actually is your marketing schedules? What is actually the sales fee that you'll charge for selling a house? Where's that in writing? How often is that updated and reviewed to protect margins inside of the business? And Con, my argument is I reckon most agencies wouldn't have that.
I completely agree.
But yeah, we're designing this brand new pre-listing kit.
Correct. or the new letter that goes into a letterbox. Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, without a doubt, like that landing planes analogy really did shape me. And I think about, this the power of execution. And I really look at it and say, okay, great. Inside of our business, I take each of my people and I say, okay, great. What are you in charge of and what are you looking after over the course of this next 90 days? So, we've got a team of, say 5 people inside of the business, and each person's got to have 3 things that they've got to land every 90 days. Now, I think about that. That means 5 times 3, we're landing 15 projects every 90 days. Times that by 4, we're landing 60 projects every year. Now, inside of our business, we then have another layer above that is what people go to achieve annually. And there's another 3 there. So there's another 15. So we're landing 75 major projects in the business every year because we've got the discipline to have the conversation around what are you going to do for your contribution in the workflow. Now, if you play your job role, I'll play mine. But the benefit is that literally we've got to land the planes, man. And I can't be here coming and helping you with baggage if you're expecting me to also get the flight plan filed, if you're also expecting me to get all the passengers on the plane.
Yeah.
So, but can you do baggage really well? And can you do the passengers on the plane really well? And I'll do the pilot bit really well.
Perfect.
And I think that that's an interesting conversation when you think about execution. You've got a great question that's changed your view on a few things.
Yeah, Manos Vindakakis. I caught up with Manos yesterday from Victoria, and he had a great question. We're going into business planning season shortly, and one of the things is it's an opportunity to reflect and review what worked, what didn't, on track, off track, etc. But Manos said, really, really great question. What does your business need to look like if you made the decision to stay with it for the rest of your life? And I had one of those aha moments. So just imagine you couldn't do anything else except what you're currently doing right now. How would you design it? What would it look and feel like? And you can break that down into systems and process, people, technology. You can look at, kind of the dream factor in terms of market share and who works in the business and how it looks and feels, the culture, et cetera, and the performance. But I think it's a great question. If you had to stick to what you're currently doing for the rest of your life, what would it look like?
Something that's changing your view.
Con, one of the great things that you learn is that when you get busy, your calendar is everything. And you start to put some structure around it and you go, okay, great, I'm going to put my holidays in first, and then I'm going to put my family time in first, and then I'm going to put in other things that are important, and then I'm going to put in my business time. And then what you then realize is that as you start getting busy and you start doing volume, that you get some really core basic rules. So what time do I start every day? What time do I finish every day? When's lunch every day? What do I do first up in the morning? What are the things that then I lead through the day? what are the appointments I do in the afternoon, what's allowable, what's not allowable, what's required for travel time.
Yeah.
And you start like really getting that. So a listing presentation's an hour, a market appraisal's 45 minutes, and a buyer appointment's 20, and I need 15 minutes on average of travel time either side of that, and that's how we got to put the buffers in. And the thing that I've kind of learned about that is that, you know, I've probably gone to the nth degree of being too scheduled, which has lacked flexibility, which means that sometimes some really good opportunities that might come my way, I can't actually facilitate in putting them into my calendar. Most people I meet would massively benefit by just having a bit more scheduled activities inside of their world.
Yes.
And then you hear people that don't realize just how incredible their life is with the unscheduled time they've got, but they confuse it with being bored. Oh, I'm bored. I don't have much on. Oh, yeah, there's not much motivating me. Can you motivate me? And what I've learned is that, like, you know, I'm best when I'm really busy. But the interesting conversation is that now in this next era, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, how do I actually make sure that I've got appropriate time to spend on the things that are important outside, which could be building wealth or quality of relationships or extra things you might want to go and do in terms of your pursuits and your passions and hobbies and desires, but really making sure that you're dialing those things on. How important is it, do you reckon, when you think about that, the ability to have some unscheduled time for thinking that doesn't just get filled up with stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in ideal weeks, and I'm a big believer in routine sets you free, but I'm also a massive believer that you can either be working in the business or on the business. And if you don't have that unscheduled time for you to be able to work on projects or, you know, that plane that's coming in with one engine, then how are you actually going to be able to move that forward, move yourself forward or your people or your business forward? I think it's critically important.